Guys, welcome back to the fourth episode of the Speed Up and Get Your Hits podcast. Per usual, I am Billy with SpecTrain, and with me I have Nick, Velox Training Group, and Brennan, Vortex Optics. And we are just guys who like to shoot guns and teach other people how to be fast and accurate. And on this show, we talk about guns and shooting and training and practice and trying to help people get better in general. We have a pretty cool topic for today that I'm excited about to dive into with these guys. One of the questions that I get all the time is from folks who are out on the market trying to figure out, hey man, either I'm getting into it or I'm trying to find the best option for a concealed carry pistol. And I got some guy telling me that I need to carry Glock 43 and some guy telling me I need to carry Glock 34. And I really just cannot figure out like where in the world. And on top of that, by the way, there's now, 20 different brands or whatever that are making really quality firearms. And so I am really just lost. And how do I even get started on the process of figuring out what's important, what's not, and finding a good quality carry pistol? One of the cool things, which we'll talk about here as we kind of wrap up, is that none of the three of us on the podcast tonight carry the same gun. We all carry different brands and have little different thoughts and preferences and things that we look for, which is really cool because one of the things that I'll just kind of start off the conversation with is that there are, a lot of really good guns out there now. We are past the day where every instructor you asked what gun you should carry would just be like, oh man, get a Glock 19. Like that used to be a thing, right? But there's a bunch of good guns out there now that offer a lot of different features and some different advantages, disadvantages, pros and cons. And so I'm excited to dive in and talk about some of the different options that are out there, what we carry, how we found it, why it works well for us, and what we think folks should look for. So, guys, I've yapped long enough. What's something people should look for or not look for when they're looking to pick up a concealed carry pistol?
Yeah, so here's the first thing not to look for.
Cool.
What is comfortable when you conceal it?
My man.
Dude, I think that's like a huge misconception. Like people will go, well, is it comfortable to carry? Like, dude, I have like an airweight revolver that's super tiny. That bitch is not comfortable to carry, right? Like I have never found a gun that is super comfortable in my pants. It's just not a thing.
Yep.
So I think that starting off, the gun should be reliable, right? How do we figure out if it's reliable? Probably ask some people who actually run those guns, like really, really hard, and run them a lot. Reliability, big thing.
Let's back up and expand on that for a minute, if you don't mind. I think let's take this one thing at a time, right? So,
Okay.
reliability, huge. So, if I ask my buddy who shoots a lot, and he's like, "Man, I had one of those and it died on me, and so I got something else." Does that mean I shouldn't get that gun?
No, I would say why. Like context matters quite a bit, right? Like why and how many rounds. And by a lot of rounds, I would say, I mean, for me, a lot of rounds, like I'll start to trust a gun probably at around 10K.
Yeah.
Right. So as someone who shoots it like a bunch, and I don't mean like your homie that shoots 100 rounds a month. Not that there's anything wrong with that homie.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, he's probably a good guy.
He is. He's probably a wonderful person.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's enough guys out there who are shooting that many rounds through a pistol and not even blinking twice about it, that you don't have to go to the guy who is only shooting 100 rounds a month, right?
Right. Well, I would say this as well. So Nick, and you can vouch for this as someone who's broken just about everything that there is, right? Every company has lemons.
Oh, for sure.
It's just a thing. So definitely ask your buddy who shoots a lot, but just because he broke one doesn't mean it's a bad thing either. It is super hard to figure out, hey, what's the track record? Sometimes for a certain company. I love asking instructors because they don't just shoot guns a lot, but they see guns come through their class every single weekend, right? And if you're like me, I've taught enough classes now that I've seen the same gun fail for 10 different people, and not be able to make it through a class. And it's like, all right, I definitely wouldn't recommend that, right? It doesn't work, right?
Starts with an X, ends with a D. Sounds like Springfield.
Or starts with a P and ends with an A, and it's a rifle. It's it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, ask people that have lots of experience with it. Try to find more than one guy. I don't ask a YouTuber. You don't you find a YouTuber who got a gun from this company. It's the worst thing ever, and you don't know him from Adam, and it's the only gun review he has. Probably ignore that. You know, it's just any other good ways people can figure out if the gun's reliable. Other than that, I think that's some good tips, but
Yeah,
it can be tough. Cool. Didn't mean to interrupt you, Nick. What else are you going for?
I was going to say accuracy next. Accuracy is a huge deal for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to worry about the gun doing its job while I'm trying to do my job.
Yep. Yeah, fascinating question. We I think if you ask certain people, they will tell you that pretty much every factory gun is accurate these days, and it's just not the case. And I think we all have experience with certain guns that just are known to have accuracy issues. So yeah, don't buy 320 Legions. No. No, it's just, we're calling people out here tonight, boys. We're coming in hot here.
So I've got like my X comp.
Yeah.
But that's the subcompact barrel in that little SIG gun.
Yep.
Dude, that thing shoots lights out. Like I've shot hundreds on B8s. It's super accurate. That being said, what is that, a 5-inch from the X5?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That stock barrel was like 6 inches off of a bag at 25. Throw a Barstow barrel in it, and then it brought it down to like 3 or 4 inches. Which even still, for me personally, that's not good enough, man. It's just not. Like I want to know that when I press the trigger, the gun is doing what it should be, and it's not me. You know what I mean? If you're missing, it should be you. If you're going to miss, it shouldn't be the gun's fault. So accuracy is a huge deal for me.
I actually had the same experience with that exact same gun. And I don't know if it was my gun, because mine seemed to have maybe a more significant accuracy issue. Like 3 different kinds of ammo, me and 2 of my buddies, 25 yards open IPSC target. And we were going like 3 for 6 slow fire, like hits. And anyways, I sold it to a guy. I told him it didn't work and it wasn't grouping, and he took it anyway. So, and traded me a brand new Glock 34 in cash. So I was like, okay, man.
Word.
Anyways, but yeah, that was also a big issue for me. I actually really like how that gun shoots. I really like how that gun shoots. The ergonomics are really nice. I think the modularity of those guns is fantastic. But there's a lot of good things going for it, and one kind of real big negative that I saw, like same as you, and that kind of nicks the pros that it has going for it. But I think one little thing like that can definitely kind of take a gun off of my list.
Yeah. That was such a heartbreak too, man. It's like you, dude, I love that gun. Like the way that thing handled and shot, it was super soft. But it's got to be able to hit shit, man. And if it can't hit shit, then it's pretty much collecting dust in my stable.
Let's bring up this one. So I think by far, when you ask people who supposedly know, hey, how do I figure a gun? They'll say, hey, go to the gun store, and try a bunch of them, and just find the one that fits your hand the best. or feels good in your hand. That's where I thought Nick was going when he said feels good. I thought he was just say it feels good in your hand, man. It's one of my least favorite piece of advice
Yeah, that's pretty horrible information
out there. There's basically one thing that I care about when it comes to fitting my hand, right? And that is like, hey, man, when I grab the gun and I grip it the way that I want to, put it in the web of my hand, can my finger interface with the trigger correctly? Like that's super important. And by the way, if you have straps on your back straps, the way you size, in my opinion, back straps on your gun, I like my trigger to break with my finger at as close to a 90-degree angle. On the trigger as possible. That's what I found works best for me. That's what those back straps are for, is to adjust the length of pull essentially to your trigger, not for the guy who just thinks he has big hands, and therefore needs that extra large back strap all the time, right? So I think I'm assuming we're all on the same page. First of all, finding a gun that feels good in your hand really is not super important. And if you don't know how to grip the gun to begin with, you don't know how a gun should feel in your hand also. So make sure you understand and have gotten some training on how to actually grip a gun, and before you are really analyzing that too in depth. But I would say that's another thing people should stop paying so much attention to.
Yeah. What do you guys think about? So I've heard this advice passed around a lot, and I don't think it's necessarily bad advice, but kind of combating that idea of, hey, pick the gun that feels good in your hand, right? People will say, pick the gun that you shoot the best, right? So that initially, I think that sounds like a really good idea. However, I think shooters who are on a similar level as us would agree that you can pick up a lot of different guns and shoot them really, really well, right? It takes some minor adjustments. I know Nick has spent a lot of time on a lot of different guns, specifically even in just the last couple of years, and obviously can shoot multiple platforms to a really high level. What do you guys think about that advice of pick the gun that you shoot the best?
I think it depends a little bit how serious you want to take it. So when you're very first starting out, right? Like there are those guys, right, that will go pick up, X gun, whatever it is, and all their shots are going a foot low left, and then they go pick up a different gun and their shots are significantly better. And that's a consistent difference. Now you and I both know it's not because of the gun.
Right.
It's because that shooter is doing something incorrect that is magnified on one particular gun because of the way the trigger is or whatever, and he doesn't know how to fix it, and it's not being exaggerated that bad on the other gun. If he's not going to train and he's not going to practice and actually learn how to shoot, well then yeah, maybe picking the gun that he's naturally a little bit better with will be an advantage. But long term, I mean, the differences between guns as far as how they shoot is pretty much limited to the trigger, and how they recoil, right? And so if one gun has a better trigger than another, that's certainly a tangible difference, and guns do recoil differently, right? So you can consider those two things, but I think that's massively different than what most people understand of find the one that you shoot the best, right?
Yeah, I would say, like, I don't know, man. I think you have to be at a certain level to like even figure out like, hey, I like this one better than this one. You know what I mean? Because it's such, like you're saying, it's such small differences. I think there is such a thing as guns that are easier to shoot than others. But again, I think you have to be at, I'm not saying like a super high level, but you have to at least be aware of certain aspects of the gun, how they recoil, how the gun returns to zero, stuff like that, to even be aware of what is going to be easier to shoot.
Yeah. And I think for new people too, who are maybe considering buying their first handgun, some of the differences that you'll notice are going to be like bigger ones, right? So the difference between shooting a Glock 43 and a Glock 17 is going to be a pretty noticeable difference. Because it's a completely different gun, right? And it's a super small frame gun. and then like a full size frame gun built around the same caliber. And that's definitely something to take into consideration. Something I see quite a bit is that, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but people kind of gravitating towards those really small, easy to conceal guns, like we started talking about, and then they realize that they're actually kind of difficult to shoot, and then they start looking into, well, maybe I could conceal a bigger gun because I sure shoot this bigger gun a little bit better. But I do think some of those differences are pretty noticeable right off the bat. But yeah, I think when you're comparing like a Glock 43 to an M&P Shield to a P365, so some of those differences are pretty marginal at best.
Hey, so here's a question for you guys. So
yeah,
because I've had this happen in classes before, and I'll tell you what I think after you guys say it.
Uh-oh.
So
I feel like it's a trap.
I've had people show up with tiny guns, LCP, 365, whatever.
Oh no, to a class?
To a private class.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a little bit better.
Right. And after, as you guys well know, after about 20 minutes, they were over shooting that gun.
Yeah.
And I give them a bigger gun to finish the class with, and they learn on the bigger gun. And what do you guys think about that? Learning how to shoot on a bigger gun, but still carrying a tiny gun that you don't shoot that well.
Oh,
because sometimes you can't fit a bigger gun. If you're a tiny person, the clothes you wear, etc.
I think that definitely learning how to shoot on a bigger gun has its benefits, especially when maybe somebody's paying you by the hour to learn these things. Because because in my experience, the way that I shoot like a shield compared to my 5-inch M&P is pretty much exactly the same. I just actually have to do everything a little bit better, pay a little bit more attention to my grip and everything that's going on with a shield. When it for them not ever going to carry a bigger gun, I think where I guess I would kind of take that conversation is, let's talk about concealment options, because in my experience, most people have not explored the concealment options that are available to them. They've tried maybe one, maybe two things, and they said, hey, that doesn't work for me. I can barely even conceal this tiny micro subcompact, and so it doesn't work on my body. Number two biggest excuses: I'm too small or I'm too big, right? and I know really small people and some pretty large people that conceal guns across kind of the spectrum of size. So I think it's generally something where maybe there's more options with concealment than they think or thought was possible. So I'm going to still gravitate towards teaching them how to shoot with a bigger gun and let them kind of do that process in reverse and figure out how big of a gun they can maybe carry.
Yeah, I assume where you're going with Nick is this as well. I think that a bigger gun, especially not only to a small gun, but just a horrendous gun like an LCP with just like such a terrible trigger and so forth, is going to the small gun is going to magnify any little thing you do wrong to such an extent that even small improvements the shooter is making are almost not noticeable, because they're still doing something a little bit wrong, right? And it's just going to magnify that. Whereas the bigger gun can help them see, okay, I'm making improvements. Here's what I'm doing right. Here's what I'm doing wrong, and actually make progress, because they can actually tell when they're improving, right? And then you go back to the little gun and you can be like, hey, I understand now some more about how to shoot now, and I can actually do a little bit better. Obviously, you're still limited by gear in that case a little bit, but you're definitely, I think, going to be able to make progress that's going to apply back to the small gun quicker on a gun that's a little bit more forgiving. Is that what you were kind of getting at?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, 100%. That's actually exactly what I told this person. And she was like, I cannot carry this big gun. Like she's like super tiny.
Fair enough.
And I was like, I mean, fair enough, but like come to a class and learn how to run the big gun.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to slay with the big gun so you know exactly what slaying is supposed to feel like. And then when you pick up that smaller gun, you ain't going to slay with it.
Uh-huh.
But it's going to be a lot easier. And the learning curve is going to go a lot quicker if you learn how to shoot with that bigger gun, right? because she's going to carry the tiny gun. She just it's the way it's going to be.
Fair enough.
Right. So I was just like, screw it, man. Like you'll have a range gun, quote unquote, and a carry gun, and freaking why not, man? As long as you're learning how to shoot, you know, obviously it's going to be different when you pick up the little gun, but
for sure,
I think she would have a solid understanding if she learned how to shoot in the bigger gun.
I think that's especially good advice. You know, when you're in the stage of trying to learn how to hit stuff consistently, right? Like that's especially where you're going to see advantages to. I think starting off, you know, with the bigger gun. Once you've nailed that stage, you're just trying to get, you know, I don't know. Learning how to reload a Glock 19 is going to help you reload an LCP that much, right? Like there's certain things you're going to have to practice on that gun with, but. Yeah. So, but we're kind of touching on, and Brennan hit it a little bit already. Size of guns. Obviously, we're all fairly full size guys that carry big guns, right? We've touched on this on the podcast before, but it's a little bit of a misnomer for a lot of folks that small guns are always more concealable. Especially small in certain dimensions. Certainly, smaller grips tend to be more concealable, but sometimes longer slides are actually more concealable. And that's because of the whole spillover effect, right? So when you have minimal mass of the gun below the belt and more mass, i.e. the grip and the back of the gun hanging over the belt, that can cause what we call spillover, where that hangs out away from the body. And if you have a longer gun or a gun with a weapon light on it that's longer, or just a longer holster in general where there's more mass below the belt, it helps it sit tighter to the body a lot of times. Certainly what I've found. And so I'm very partial to like X300 length, you know, type holsters, and 5-inch guns or guns with comps or whatever you want to fit in there. These for some folks, like you said, that just aren't going to carry that. For me right now, the smallest gun that I feel comfortable recommending is like the 365 XL 43X. Type category where you can, it's, you know, it's a little bit closer to a single stack, but still has decent capacity, and you can actually get your whole hand on the gun, right? What's your guys' take on that? Is that kind of where you draw the line as well, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. That's actually my smallest gun that I own is a 365. It's in the Icarus frame for the Parkament machine comp. It's like a frame designed for that particular gun, but I can get my pinky on it.
You got to be Gucci. It's fine.
It's Gucci. And the cool thing, dude, like you throw a comp on that little gun, it pretty much shoots like a big gun. It's pretty damn close. And it's smaller. I don't think it's more concealable because, like you were just touching on, it absolutely pokes out. And the only way to get it to not poke out is to basically make it, you know, ride super low in your pants.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the con with that is being able to get it out because now the belt is in the way. Now you need to dig the gun out instead of just being able to draw the gun super easy. So, you know, I carry that, gosh, man, every now and then. But I would much rather carry a 5-inch gun with a light.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So for folks that really want small guns, I will sometimes begrudgingly recommend something in that class. I really, really prefer folks to get something in the what I would say just the normal compact class, Glock 19, M&P 2.0 compact, you know, Walther compact, you know, something of that size. If for no other reason than, you know, if you graduate to a larger gun, all you got to do to get the benefits of a longer gun is add a X300 on there or a mod light or whatever full size weapon light that extends your holster down. And now you've got all the carry experience, if you will, of the bigger gun, with a much less, you know, cost for that upgrade, right?
I think it's kind of fun to see the progression sometimes too. Like people will start with maybe like, you know, Glock 43. I keep using that example, but something that size, right? And then then Glock comes out with the, you know, the 48, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. That's barely bigger than my 43, but it has 10 rounds and it has a long slide. That's really cool. And they try it on and they're like, oh yeah, that's not that bad to conceal. And then I stack that right on top of a Glock 19, and I'm like, look at this, it's the exact same size, except it's a little bit skinnier. And then all of a sudden they're carrying a Glock 19 sized almost gun that they previously thought was maybe impossible, because they were comparing one gun to the small gun, and there was a step in between, and now they're going, oh, maybe I could carry a 90. What do you carry? I'm like, I carry a 5-inch gun. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see how you do that, because that's now only one step away from the 19. I think that's kind of interesting sometimes. I'm definitely helping a buddy out with that right now.
It's a process. So that touches on something that's really cool, or not cool, or a question I have for you guys to see if you have any suggestions, because honestly, I'm not sure that I do. One of the crappy things about figuring out concealed carry, I'm sure we all have the drawer or the box, full of holsters, right?
Do I ever?
So it's really tough because, not only is it sometimes tough to figure out what's the best, but it's tough to figure out what is the best for you, because, concealed carry is kind of a personal thing. It depends on what kind of clothing you wear, what kind of belt you wear, what your personal frame and size and so forth. It's easy to say, come to a class and I'll let you try some of my stuff, but I need a gun to show up to your class, right? So do we have any recommendations for folks on how to kind of figure out, like, what's the first holster I should get? Like, how do I kind of start that journey and not make the same mistakes we all did, right? Do we have any helpful tips, or are folks just lost out there?
Oh man, yeah, I have a great tip.
Okay.
Start at tier 1 MSP Pro.
Okay.
And don't look back. It's easily the most concealable holster.
Okay.
The fastest, getting the gun out. Some of the the nicest retention, and dare I say, the most comfortable holster I've worn. It's freaking dope, dude.
Very cool.
It was a huge difference. Like when I bought it, I was like, it's just another holster, right?
Yeah.
Then put it on and started using it, and I was like, dude, this thing is way nicer than what I'm used to. Way nicer. It's awesome.
Man. Cool design in that holster. It's pretty similar design wise. It doesn't have the kind of sideways slant situation, but very similar to what I'm carrying, which is the Filster floodlight. Design wise, another holster that I like a lot, which I bought not thinking I would carry it forever, and then I just have never had motivation to stop carrying it. So pretty dope. But yeah, definitely good holsters out there for sure. But unfortunately, guys, it's just one of those things. You gotta buy stuff. You gotta try it, right? And there's really just no way around it.
I think there's some key features on holsters that you can look for, though, like it kind of across the board.
Oh yeah.
And the models that Billy and Nick just recommended, I would say are good ones to start with as far as what features to consider. I actually just picked up the MSP Pro holster. I also have a Filster floodlight, and I usually carry in one from M3 Tactical. Mm-hmm. But if you look at these holsters, they're pretty similar, right? They both have 2 clips. I prefer that for stability. They both have concealment wings. I really like that. They're both fully Kydex front and back. I like that. I have wedges on them.
Single clip master race.
I like wedges on the back. They both kind of I can pop foam wedges on there. I don't know. I think there's some things that if you talk to people who've been concealing for a long time, and especially concealing maybe a gun that you want to conceal, for a long time very successfully, you kind of start asking people what they use and start kind of comparing them, and I think you start to maybe see some similarities. I don't see too many guys who are concealing full-size guns using just holsters that are completely different or have completely different features or anything like that. Just from my experience.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, we can do a whole episode on holsters for sure. I was just talking about this is sizes. Unfortunately, you're not going to know what you feel like, what it feels like until you put a full-size gun in your pants and walk around.
I think where the clips are too is a huge deal. Brennan, hold up that MSP holster. Show Billy where the clips are on that thing. Hold it up close and show him how they're kind of angled. Dude, that thing tucks the gun away so good.
Yeah, that's the cool thing I've noticed about the MSP. I want to get one as well. I was kind of waiting to see what some of the latest weapon lights that are coming out, hopefully shortly, look like before I buy one. That's the only reason I haven't bought one yet. But yeah, definitely that looks like a really cool holster for sure. So I'm excited to hear Brennan's feedback as well, especially in comparison to the Floodlight, because that's a cool one.
Yep.
Cool. So we've talked on a couple things there: reliability, accuracy. We talked about fit. We talked about size a little bit. What else, guys? What is anything else people should that you want to bring up right off the bat? I mean, we can talk about some specifics. As an example, let's talk double single versus striker fired or single action only. What are your guys' thoughts? I know we're all carrying striker guns, but we probably all carried other things as well. What do you think? Is there something in particular folks should be looking at? Or what are your thoughts?
Go ahead, Brent.
So my mind has kind of changed on this.
Okay.
I used to think that, like, man, striker fire only, and for what it's worth, I only own striker fire guns. All right. Mm-hmm. However, I've met and I know enough really good shooters who carry a lot of different guns and run them very, very well. Double action, single action only. Right. Heck, there's like maybe one or two really good revolver shooters in the world who actually run a revolver really well. Like, I don't think it matters that much, but I do think that if you're jumping around and you're not going to dedicate the time to that platform, it's going to kind of come back and bite you in the ass a little bit.
Well, come on now. Those revolver guys are probably shooting iron sights too. Is you saying it doesn't matter if you have a red dot or not, Brennan?
Well, the two people I'm thinking of are Jerry Mitchellek and Caleb Giddings. Okay. So they both have red dots on their.
Fair enough.
revolvers.
Fair enough.
But if it doesn't have a red dot on that,
there's intrinsic benefits or not, right? But
I want a dot on a revolver.
Yeah, me too. I think that's
totally carry that.
No, yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it a little bit. Is pick a platform that's going to be somewhat consistent for you, and learn that system, learn that platform. I don't think there's a huge downside to carrying a DASA gun, really, if you are really proficient with it and you understand that it's not going to operate exactly like a Glock,
Yeah, so I guess my general thoughts on it are, I mean, start striker fired unless you have a really good reason not to, right? If for folks that don't know better, really a lot of the really quality options that happen to also be affordable belong in the striker fired family. Like you said, nothing wrong with the DASA gun. I have not been able to get on the train. I don't see the benefits from it versus the cons. It's just like, it's just not my cup of tea. Some of the single action only guns that are out there are really, really stinking nice. Right? But I am not referring to your Springfield Commander, right? Like, if you're going to get a single action only gun that's really stinking nice, it's going to be really stinking expensive. Right? That's just kind of part of it. So, if you want to look at something that's like a Staccato or nicer, I would not I wouldn't be mad about it, but much below that, I have concerns.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Like, I think it's way easier to learn on a striker fired gun. The amount of time that you have to put into a double single, and even something like a 2011. I have a 2011. I'm gonna have to put time into it to figure it out, like, to be really, really good with it.
Yep.
I also own 3 double singles, and I kind of like them a little bit. It's kind of crazy, the more I get into this whole shooting thing, the easier those things are. I don't know.
I think that's how it goes across the board, right?
Yeah, I mean, just grip the gun and press the trigger. It's fairly easy, but I think that you have to become kind of intimately involved in where that trigger is going to break and how it feels and all that good jazz. So they definitely take a little bit longer. I think one of the pros of carrying a double single gun is reholstering, right? So you can put your thumb over the back of the hammer, and as you're reholstering, it's kind of like a little safety net, if you will, right? If you feel that hammer moving, then something is inside the holster. That means to stop, right? I don't know. kind of a neat thing about a double single gun reholstering.
Definitely a cool thing to have, especially on guns that don't have trigger safeties.
Yep.
Which, side note, if you're gonna get a concealed carry gun with a trigger safety, whenever possible, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Yeah. Okay. Good. Cool. Good stuff. I guess we've covered some good points. I guess it would be a good time to dive into kind of specifics on what maybe we carry and why we've made that decision, what we like about it. Unless you guys have anything else general you want to throw out first before we get there.
So I have one more.
Okay.
One more. Well, it's kind of two wrapped up in one. But one thing that I really look for now in pistols is some sort of optics compatibility from the factory.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I think the optics mounting systems are just so good now from the factory that that it doesn't honestly make a whole lot of sense to buy like a regular gun and get it milled anymore. Also, so many new optics are always coming out, and it's kind of nice to be able to change between the different ones. I've definitely done that some in the last year or so. So that's something I'm looking for. The other thing is for me on a pistol of any size, I'm looking for some sort of accessory rail just to mount a light. I think I think Glock 43X and 48 like initially came out without one, and then they came out with another version that was optics compatible and had some sort of rail underneath.
They do some dumb stuff, bro. They really do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they came out really like almost back to back. But yeah, so those are two things I'm going to look for in a pistol. Just make sure I can mount a dot and a light to it if I want to.
Yeah, no, excellent points. I think those things are thankfully getting rarer, more and more rare to not have on a gun at all. And it's really cool. It's really cool to see more and more guns just coming optics ready, and just as a default, like you can't get it not optics ready. 365 XL guns like that, pretty freaking cool.
Yep.
To see. All right, who wants to go first? Let's hear what you got, boys.
So I carry a Walther PDP.
Mm-hmm.
It is a compact 5-inch frame with a 4-inch slide and a Parker Mount Machine dual port comp on it.
Sweet gun.
It is. It's freaking dope.
And you got the dynamic trigger in it, yes?
I got the dynamic performance trigger in that gun. What else?
That's the best factory striker trigger on the market. I'll just say it.
It is.
That thing is nuts.
Yeah, it really is. So I got that trigger, and then I carry a 509T, and then a Mod Light PLH V2 light for it. So
and
all the cool
you carry that in the MSP holster?
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
So why though? Obviously, I know you work with Walther as well, but I also know, like me, just Walther asking you to be on the team would not be a reason for you to run a gun that you don't like. So what do you like about it in comparison to other things that you have maybe carried or like, or why would you recommend it to somebody over whatever else?
Yeah. So that's actually a good way to preface this. I could shoot and carry any gun I want to carry.
Right.
And Walther is probably not going to fire me. So,
like I said, probably.
Probably.
with a little nervous laugh at the end.
Yeah.
So, the PDP is just a super phenomenal, easy gun to shoot. Comes optics ready. Like Billy said, the trigger is great. I would absolutely agree with him. The texture on it is great out of the box. I think that the texture is like a really, really good compromise where it's not super grippy. It's just grippy enough to where, it bites, but it's not going to rub my belly hair because I have that. And with that dual port comp on there, man, it's super, super flat. And like, why not? If you're going to have a carry gun, why not have it be like a freaking race gun at that point? Why not be able to have it where you're chasing performance with parts at that point. You know what I mean? Because that is a thing. Like, I could shoot that gun a little bit faster than I could shoot my other ones, just because it's softer. The recoil impulse is flatter. So yeah, and the 509T, I really dig the closed emitter for carry stuff, because it's just one less thing for me to worry about. So
I agree with you on that. On the grip
edge
texture.
distortion and such not bother you at all? I know
What's that?
Some people make a big deal on the 509T about like distortion around the edges and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where they look at it in their living room and they're like, man, this thing has a lot of edge distortion, and then you go out and shoot it and you don't notice it at all.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're looking at the target, yeah,
I don't see it.
it's much less of a thing. Like, if you look at the glass, like, it's there. Also, I definitely feel like it's worse on some of them.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I've compared some of them side by side, including Saturday. I was looking at two side by side. I was like, wow, that one definitely seems worse. But yeah, generally, I think, yeah, not a big deal. Really, really solid optic. Definitely, if someone's looking for enclosed emitter optics, I'm like, yeah, that's top of my list.
I actually shot a PDP with a 509T on it last week. And Nick, I actually, so I'd only shot one before one time, I think. And I agree that grip texture is really, really good for factory. Like that's really fantastic for carry. For competition, like, I would probably end up going something more aggressive, but for something just to like throw in a holster and like wear right up against your skin is money.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
Yep.
And it's textured in all the right places too, which is cool to see. That's a cool gun. It's a cool gun.
Really is. Like I said, I got I shot the new one at SHOT Show, which is pretty fun. Yeah, man, that dynamic trigger. I mean, it really is. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of really cool triggers out there. Like, I mean, the Apex and the MMP. I know Brennan carry is really hard to beat. I like my Timneys a lot, but as far as like an actual factory trigger, I mean, you cannot beat that trigger. And it goes right up there with any of them. So that's really, really cool to see a company like Walther actually coming out with a good trigger, because factories do not normally do that at all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Dude,
really, really good gun.
Those guns are phenomenally accurate. I don't know if I ever told the story of when I got my first Walthers on here, but my first one was a Q5, and I put a dot on it and went out to 25 yards, bagged it, went to go zero it, shot 10 shots. They were all like touching, like size of a quarter. And I was like, okay, maybe I threw some off the cardboard. Let me try again, you know? And same exact thing, dude. 10 shots, touched like it. They are freaking laser beams, those guns.
That's very cool.
And what's neat about that is you can actually like trust it. Like, hey, there's the dot. I can send it. And if the dot is anywhere within the vicinity of where, whatever it is that I'm trying to hit, it is absolutely going to hit it. So there's my Walther commercial.
Kind of important. Cool stuff. What you got, Brennan? I know you're a big fanboy over there. What you got, man?
Yeah. So my deal is I pay Smith & Wesson and they send me firearms. So
one of those special relationships with the company.
Yeah. Sponsored by American Express. No, just kidding. So M&P 2.0 for me. My first gun was a 2.0 compact, which is the Glock 19 equivalent size. Learned how to shoot on that gun. Has a bunch of rounds on it now. I don't carry it in that same configuration anymore. Pretty much all the time I've got a 5-inch slide on it, or either a 5-inch slide or a 4.25-inch slide. So the slides are interchangeable, much like the Walthers, much like the OZ. I carry it with a compact grip still. Oh, my camera's all weird. So this is like a 15-round capacity. So it stays pretty small as far as the grip footprint when I conceal, which I really like. But then I kind of get the benefit of that 5-inch recoil, or that recoil that I get with a 5-inch barrel and full length slide. So I really like that. Been shooting these for as long as I've been shooting, pretty much. Like I said earlier, tried some other guns, and they weren't bad guns, but I just didn't really jive with them as much. I just really like how they shoot. I like how I shoot them, honestly. Yeah, X300 for me. And I just picked up a PL350 as well. So this thing's pretty cool. And giving that some time as well. So that's what I got. Oh yeah, and Apex trigger. Billy mentioned that these triggers are, in my opinion, the nicest triggers, striker fire that I've ever used. I really like them. But honestly, triggers are kind of catching up. I feel like the new Walther trigger is probably just as good. And the Timney is really, really close. And honestly, Timney, I think, just dropped a new one for the M&P as well. So I'm kind of curious to try that out because they did some amazing things to the Glock. So I'd be interested to see how that works.
I'm interested in that as well. You know, what they did for the Glock is essentially what the M&P had to begin with.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know what all they did to the M&P, but we'll have to see. I'm definitely excited to try it out for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that's it. That's what I got.
Cool. So I look for a couple things in addition to what we've talked about as far as general recommendations in guns. I look for a couple really specific things. One of which is this, right? So here's a stock Glock 19, and one of the unique things about this gun is that it has absolutely no beaver tail behind the slide. That is super important for me, as well as not having a slide that overhangs past the grip very far. Reason that's important is just because of the way that I draw the gun, which I do value a lot more than if I was just a competition shooter, as an example. But, you know, especially when for reals mode, get the gun out quick could be important. Anyway, the way that I draw the gun specifically, I started off doing this in concealed carry. But I don't dive down on the gun with my thumb behind it. I come over top with a claw grip where my thumb kind of sits on top of the rear sight there. And I just found that guns with larger beaver tails get in the way of that. Now, I know that, you know, I showed my draw, you know, my competition draws to Brennan as an example, back when he was running SIGs and so forth. He had to figure out a way around that, and he did a really good job of kind of modifying it, right? But it's just so much easier the way I draw the gun when you don't have that beaver tail to contend with. Glock by far is, I think, the best setup for that. But when you get that is kind of slide bite issues, right? And also a stock Glock is doesn't offer you a lot of things that you probably want out of a gun if you're a serious shooter. So before the OZ9 came out, which is what I carry currently, I moved to this. So this was before I was with SpecTrain or sponsored by you know, Zev or anything like that. It's a full Zev upper, but it's actually a polymer 80 lower, which gave me some cool stuff that I wanted, which included the pick rail, better, you know, texture and so forth, but also just a really minimal beaver tail. So that one's gives you can't get slide bite on this gun, but it also let me draw it the way that I want to. So I now run the OZ9, and one of the first things that I found there was that it has more of a beaver tail than I like, right? So it's pretty somewhat more pronounced. But the cool thing about it is these grip modules are $50 to swap these out. So you can attack them with a Dremel and not feel bad about it. So here's the way all my guns look now that are OZ9s. I have Dremeled the back of them down, and I can do exactly what I want to with these guns, which is really, really cool. As far as my draw stroke goes, that's really the one big thing that I modify. But that's a weird thing that I look for specifically in guns that is not going to matter to everybody. But it's important enough to me that I will never buy a gun that has a big beaver tail on it. That's just how I feel about it. So like I said, I run the 5-inch OZ9. We've talked about why big guns are kind of cool a little bit already and on previous podcasts. Love this gun. Really cool full-length steel chassis, which adds weight to the gun, gives it a really cool balance point with the light. It's essentially right at the trigger, which I like a lot, including steel pick rail. Like I said, interchangeable grip modules. So why that's kind of cool, right? So here's my, you know, my match setup. So I run carry optics, so no magwell, and I have to, you know, obviously I run a full size grip module. If I want to, it takes me a couple seconds to switch that gun out to, you know, compact grip with a magwell or, you know, whatever I would want to for carry, which is pretty cool. So here's kind of my carry setup. It's just the compact Zeb magwell and the Glock like 19 size grip, which hides a little bit better, which is pretty cool, but still on the 5-inch gun. So that's a pretty cool feature. I'm running the SRO, which is just it's just money, y'all. It's just
It is.
Yeah. Good stuff. Timmy trigger, we already talked about. Also the Zev, like we talked about, these do come with really good texture. I never had any desire to change it out. Even for competition, I generally carry the gun that I compete with, so I never was going to get silicon carbide or whatever on my match gun because I don't want that in my pants. But I found this from Lead Baron Customs. This is kind of his proprietary goodness here, if my camera will cooperate. And this texture is just money. It is really, really cool. Bites your hand really well, but is super comfortable to carry. I've not had any issues there at all. So I have been trying that out, and it is really, really nice. Lead Baron Customs.
I had a 34 done up from him, and yeah, it was the nicest grip texture I've ever used by far. By far.
Good stuff. Affordable. Uses a cool Q system. Good stuff. Guns are super accurate. I've had no complaints there. Really good overall. The other thing that I look for, now this is at the bottom of things that I look for, but when it comes to recoil, I like guns with a low bore axis, and I know Nick's cringing over there. Don't get me wrong. So the argument, and again, this is me looking for niche stuff that I like, right? The argument on the internet is, hey, it doesn't matter how flat your gun is. It only matters how fast it returns to zero. And to a certain point, that makes total sense, and it's 100% true. However, the vast majority of the people that say that do not have on-demand splits under 15. I'll just say it right now. Look, it's up to you whether you care about that. Most people
he went
don't.
there, folks.
There's very little practical application for that kind of thing, but I like to go fast, boys. Okay. And so in my opinion, at certain levels of speed, having a flatter gun is absolutely an advantage. Versus the kind of more flippy gun that still comes back to zero well. That's just my take. I can't prove it, but I like it. And so I like the kind of Glock M&Ps. I ran M&Ps before I moved to Glocks as well. They have a very similar setup as far as the way the slide moves in your hand and so forth. So I like guns that sit kind of low like that. I've never enjoyed SIGs as an example, just because again I can run them sub 20 all day long, like no problem, right? But I have difficulty running them down in the 12, 13, 14 type range with the same kind of accuracy that I do with these, which could be because I haven't spent enough time with them and learned how to do better on those guns as well. But that's just kind of my take. So yeah, very cool. I think the takeaway, guys, is there's lots of good guns out there again. And once again, I apply Scott's saying to everything. If you can shoot, your gun doesn't really matter. And if you can't shoot, your gun really doesn't matter.
Very true.
So yeah, lots of cool guns out there. Let's move on. I know we're a little bit short on time. To a little bit kind of this week in shooting. We're kind of this past weeks in shooting. We skipped a couple weeks because primarily Nick and I were a little bit busy with the SHOT Show things. So I think that's going to be kind of our weekly report. Might have some SHOT Show related things. Quick spoiler, nothing like really just like blew my hair back this year. Couple cool things. What'd you see this year, Nick? Anything cool? And tell them about the mod light stuff a little bit if you want.
Yeah, I mean, same with you. Nothing was like, holy shit, like I really need that. Unity came out with a magnifier mount that's like universal.
I'm excited about that.
Omni mount.
Super excited about that.
Definitely buying that. Mod light, I just so happen to have one right here. Came out with the Legacy Enhanced driver heads, which is super cool because you could run these on these Defender Ultra bodies. You can put them on M600 bodies, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
run CR123s and 16650s.
Mm-hmm.
There's a T and a F, T for throw, F for flood. So essentially, very, very similar to the OKW and the PLH V2. A lot of people have always said, hey, I want a PLH V2 dual fuel head. This would be the one that's very, very similar to the PLH V2.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
Super cool.
pumped about
I have a feeling some folks may own some of those bodies that are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one or two.
There's a few floating around.
Shotgun forends. You know, a lot of police have less than lethal shotguns with that Surefire forend on it. MP5 forends. You know, there's a lot of departments out there that have stuff like that. And if they don't want to buy a completely new light, they could just take this head, plop it on there. As long as it's one of the 2-cell bodies, it's good to go. So pretty cool upgrade.
Legit.
Very cool. I will throw this up. So this is probably to me one of the more interesting things that I was excited to take a look at. Right. EOTech is now in the mini dot market, which was with a pretty interesting offering here. Pretty decently sized window. Was happy to see that. Sits very, very nicely. Good looking dot. Seems like it could be an exciting upgrade for all the folks there that have DPP milled guns sitting out there. So obviously, haven't actually seen it out there or like dropped it on concrete a bunch of times or anything yet, but seems pretty could you think, Nick? Did you get a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I looked at it and I was like, that's cool. It's a dot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wasn't terribly excited about that one. I tell you the one that I was super excited about, and I really want it, is the God, I forgot what they call it. It's the Hollow Sun, but it's like a 509T, but it's like the K model, the tiny one.
Yeah.
That's badass.
That is cool.
Sig P365, throw that thing on there. That would be super, super nice.
Now, the Hollow Sun, the one I'm still skeptical about is the direct MOS, like replacement one that has no batteries and no buttons.
The CSC or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance. Dude, that booth was so packed with people, and I was just tired of standing there waiting.
It looks better. So for folks that don't know, Hollow Sun presented the 507K. If this is the way I remember the story, they had it at SHOT Show in 2020, and it was the dot that did not have batteries, did not have buttons, and it was, I mean, terrible. It was also at that time, it was a changing reticle. It not only changed brightness automatically, but depending on the ambient brightness detected, it changed the reticle. So it would, if it was dim in the area, if I'm remembering correctly, dim area, it was dot only. And then as the room got brighter, it would give you a circle dot.
Cool. And more shit to process.
Literally on the show floor, you could take the gun it was mounted to, aim it down, and you got a dot. And as you went like that, it got brighter and gave you a circle dot. And I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And then somehow, like, the actual K came out, and it was just like a Hollow Sun that was smaller. And I was like, oh, that's actually cool. I don't know what happened to that whole capacitor dot thing, but you know, what they actually presented was cool. Well, the capacitor thing is back. It has no buttons on it. It is auto only.
So what's the purpose of that? Like, what's their goal with that?
Well, it also has no batteries. So it is charged off of a capacitor, which is supposed to hold like up to 30 days or something. But you better take your gun out in the sun at least once a month, or it might die on you, type thing.
Auto adjust thing is a no-go for me. That's like
I will say they have way more sensors on it now. It's supposed they clearly market it as working even with weapon lights. But I am still skeptical until proven wrong.
Yeah.
That it works the way it's supposed to. So we'll see, but I'm not buying it. I'll tell you that.
I'd be curious to see if it worked with weapon lights. Like, what kind of weapon lights? You know what I mean? Like, if I hit it with 69,000 candela, am I still going to see the dot?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep. That is the thing for sure. I don't have a whole lot of bills to pay from SHOT Show. Vortex came out with a bunch of new bags and clothes and stuff, but it's a lot of the kind of the same old kind of stuff. New colors, new materials, all that kind of stuff. So you guys can check them out. Zev is coming out with a warm and fuzzy AR, which I don't know what that is. A lot of people seem really excited about it. Do you guys know what this is?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Explain it to me.
So warm and fuzzy is like a, I guess, clothing, stickers, brand company.
I've gathered that. Yeah.
It has a very cult-like following.
Apparently.
So I guess that rifle is going to have some sort of jazzed up paint job on it.
It does have a Triarch multicam Cerakote job on it.
That's pretty groovy.
Which I've seen less cool things.
Yeah.
You know, but
it's warm and fuzzy, so a lot of people are going to buy it.
I'm gonna get it and rattle can it.
If you do, use code SpecTrain. You know what I'm saying? That's all I got on that one. What else, guys? That was. I mean, I didn't see anything else super cool to report back on. Shot the Angstad roller delayed PCC a little bit. That was kind of fun. Way more of a difference than their old gas guns than I thought. I may or may not be trying to get a 16-inch model for things.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Daniel Defense had a new rail.
It's a rail that goes on a rifle, and you can mount stuff to it.
It's actually really nice. I'm probably going to replace my Riz 2 with the Riz 3.
If you like grenade launchers, it's definitely cool.
Yeah, and I kind of saw something happen at SHOT Show at the Danny D booth that made me want to buy Danny D rifles. So I'm probably going to do more of that.
I have traditionally been a big fan of those rifles. I tend to own some, and they are really nice.
Yeah. So screw it. I'll tell you on the show. Whatever. What's it? What do they call the NSSF dudes?
Yeah.
Came by.
Okay.
And they were like, "You guys need to wear your mask" at the Daniel Defense booth.
Right.
Told everyone to put a mask on, or we're gonna kick you guys out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Cool, go get the forklifts. We'll start packing all of our shit right now."
Really?
And nothing happened. And I was like, "This makes me want to buy like 10 Daniel Defense rifles."
That's cool.
It was badass.
That's cool.
So, yeah. By the way, I didn't wear a mask all week.
To be fair, if they had actually gotten kicked out of the show, that would have been worth more marketing dollars.
Yeah.
Than going to SHOT Show would have ever been worth.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. I don't. Folks dropped the ball on SHOT Show this year, man. All the guys that showed up and like lost their money. I'm like, man, you should have showed up and gotten tried to kicked out. That would have been way cooler. But anyway.
Dude, by day 2, no one was even telling you to put a mask on anymore.
I got told to put one on twice the entire time I was there, and just did not, and it was fine.
I just kept walking.
Did not.
100%.
I was like, sure, and just kept walking and never put it on, and nothing happened.
My buddy Pete Peterson, former MARSOC Marine, he was walking around all week. He had a mask on his wrist, and we walked into one of the casinos, and the guy at the front door was, "Hey man, you got a mask?" He's like, "Yep, got one right here, good to go," and just kept right on trucking, and it was just like fine. It was just charade, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But, anyway,
I wish the whole Second Amendment community or whatever would have gone and just not complied. That would have sent a lot better message than just paying for the booth and not showing up, because that's what that other side wants you guys to do.
Yep.
They want us to not show up. So it would have been way cooler to see the bigger companies like Colt and all that stuff. Like, what did Colt have? Like, they had like a casting couch. Like, that was it. That was it in the booth. Like, it would have been super cool to just see all them just show up and not wear a mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like putting NSSF out of business would not make the other side sad. It would not. So yeah, yeah, whatever, folks. Listen to their conscience and so forth. I got no problem with that. But when folks start accusing me of not having integrity, foregoing, that's where I have an issue. Like, come on, bro. But anyway,
Yeah,
all
that's
right, cool.
ridiculous.
I know we're short on time. Some of us have, families and stuff. I wanted to answer a question for the week really quickly that we got in, which was regards to how to carry a spare magazine. Lots of different ways to do it. I'll give some thoughts really quick. I'm interested to hear what you guys do. Obviously, the most common way inside the waistband holster of some kind, you basically have the main decision to make is, do I want it to be a one-piece holster that's kind of like locked together, or do I want two separate things that I can move around and put wherever I want them? In my experience, the one-piece holsters tend to work best if you're kind of a slimline fella, not super wide, and so you need those to be close together anyways. I always carry a spare mag, and I carry it in the waistband. I carry a separate holster, and I do that not just because I want a reload in case that I run out of ammo or need to clear a malfunction or I have something of that nature, but frankly because it helps with concealment. If you just have the gun, especially if it's over the right side a little bit, now you just have this kind of weird, huge bulge on the right side. And balancing that out with a magazine really helps round out your belt line a lot. So I actually carry with a tucked in shirt a lot, using tuckable clips with carrying appendix. And to do that well, spare mags really, really, really important. I really, really like these, the extended mag pouches. This is the same kind of concept as the carrying a 5-inch gun, but I don't actually carry a mag that's long enough for that effect to really happen. So this mag pouch is actually designed to let me adjust the ride height of my magazine to be where I want it, and the mag pouch is actually a good bit longer than my mag is, so it helps keep everything straight up and down.
That's the Dark Star gear, Koala.
Dark Star, and what JP makes one as well. I think it's pretty similar.
JM Custom Kydex.
JM. Yeah, JM
Yeah.
Custom. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I ran one of those for a long time.
I don't know. Maybe Brennan. I don't know that there's a significant difference between those two. I think they're fairly similar.
Yeah, they're extremely similar. Yep.
Yeah, Dark Star gear, JM, like both of those a lot. And then of course, the discrete carry concepts clips are fantastic. Absolutely love these clips. And if you really want to be cool, you will mount your DCC clip to your Dark Star gear mag pouch with Safariland hardware. That's just how you do it if you're cool. But anyway, that's what I do. Now, there's other great options. We talk about Neomag, in our classes all the time. If you want to carry a magazine in your pocket, that is the best way to do it. Having a Neomag. But I typically don't carry in my pocket. I typically carry inside the waistband. But that's another good way to do it as well. All right, what's your guys' thoughts? How do you carry mags?
Yeah, I carry the Tier 1 MSP mag pouch as well. Not the short one, but the long one for the same exact reason that you do.
Yep.
I like that you can cant the clip or cant the magazine, right?
You can cant the clip on that one, but you get two screws in it, right?
No, so there's one screw,
Okay.
but there's little detent thingies that it like pops into. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Because that is the thing on these. You have to use a rubber washer and keep this. That's why I use the Safariland hardware, because you have to keep it cranked down, or this will start floating on you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, the other one, the MSP one, won't do that.
Okay.
And I like it to where the magazine is canted, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple reasons. Number one is because it's right in front of me, and if it's straight up and down, I have to kind of do like this whole jobby with my wrist, which kind of sucks.
Yep.
And two, like that magazine is exactly in the same place that my open carry or my gamer rig or whatever the hell you want to call that belt, where that magazine is. So it's canted and it's basically right to the left of my belly button. That thing works great. I love that magazine carrier. You could put any kind of magazine in it and it's going to work. It's got little bungees. You could tighten it, loosen it, whatever. It's great.
Very cool.
Yeah, I was using the JM Custom Kydex one, which is pretty much identical to the Dark Star Gear one.
Yep.
Love that thing. Hammer Armament came out with a new mag pouch. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and I've been using that since. And I actually didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I like the JM Custom Kydex one. But he sent me one of those, and I actually like it better. I have more adjustability in the cant, which I really like. It's an infinite adjustability actually it can go the negative way. I don't know why you do that, but it can go from straight up all the way to like it's almost like past a 45-degree angle. So I could really get anything that I want in there. Exact same reason that Nick was just saying is because, well, one, it conceals the mag better when it's kind of laying flatter.
Yep.
And then two, it's in the exact same place as my primary reload on all of my gun belt. I think that's pretty rad. And yeah, it's a DCC clip. So that thing, once it gets on my belt, it's not moving, it's not coming out. And I can go kind of stab into that and pull the mag out really, really aggressively. And I know it's not going to go anywhere. So I like that a lot. That's what I do. Pretty much the same as you guys. It's very similar to the other two that were mentioned.
Cool. I think that about covers that. One other thing I forgot to mention earlier, at the SHOT Shows, I don't know if this works actually, but they say it does. Premier Body Armor came out with, I don't know if you saw this, Nick, this armor cooling material.
I saw that. Yep. I think that was right by our booth, the Modlight booth.
It was
Close
not.
by. No?
It was up on the second floor.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's retrofits to basically any soft armor for all law enforcement guys out there, or even your carriers as well, and it like wraps around in front. It's like a big sticker you slap on your armor, and it supposedly somehow pulls heat out from between your body and the armor and routes it out the front of your vest. Supposedly they've tested it, and it's like 200% cooler than normally wearing armor. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't know those guys, but they're generally pretty cool guys. They're here local. So I'm excited to try the things out because if it works, that will be pretty cool. But anyway, throwing that out there. New Premier Body Armor. Cool. I think that's about it for tonight, guys. You guys got anything? Last chance. Anything to add?
I don't know if you guys saw the. This was not a SHOT Show because Vortex is not a SHOT. Not because of COVID, but the next generation squad weapon fire control.
Oh, dude.
That thing is really cool. So I'm actually in the middle of listening to the full length podcast that Vortex Nation podcast did about it. And we got, I forget the guy's name, but somebody from Spear is the project manager for that optic is talking about it. So I'm about halfway through it, but that's pretty cool. So if you guys want to read up on that, it's the Army's, the Vortex won that contract with the Army.
It's pretty cool.
But that thing was pretty legit.
Yeah, it's funny, that and the I guess the Magpul, Maztec stuff.
That was cool.
Had some guys, I got in an argument with somebody on the internet somewhere. It was like, oh yeah, that's the last thing we need is like 2 extra pounds of stuff on our guns, and I was like, bro, the first night vision optics that came out on rifles back in Vietnam, they kind of sucked and were heavy too, right? But like this is obviously the way things are going. It's a new wave of what battle rifles are going to look like, case closed. So
it's super cool, man. Like,
yeah,
the fact that, and I don't know about the Vortex one, but the one at the Magpul booth had a laser rangefinder on the top, so you freaking laser it, and then your holds come up inside the reticle. Fucking dope, man. Like,
even if you can't the gun, bro.
Yeah.
For folks that haven't seen this, if you cant the gun, it will superimpose an actual leveled reticle in your scope where you should be aiming.
And here's the thing. So I was like, he's giving me a spiel,
Yeah.
And the whole time, like the PRS dude in me is like, this is so dumb, right? And
yeah,
I was like, well, is it just like a BDC in here? And he's like, nope, it's applied ballistics. Punch in all your information. Applied ballistic has that the link part of it, that you can upload all of your shit onto your Kestrel with. Same exact thing for that. I forgot what the heck they even called it, but super cool, man. Like punch in all of your data in your app, link it to that, and bam, you have all of your data. It's badass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very cool. And so many guys, again, the comments just drive you crazy on this kind of stuff, like regarding the round count. Who can't keep track of how many rounds they've shot in their magazine? I'm like, bro, have you ever tried to carry 12 mags for 2 days, and just been shooting out of them every couple hours? And oh, by the way, it lets the TOC look at the entire unit and see how much ammo your entire unit has without even having to ask you. And they can send you more bullets if you need them. That's pretty cool.
Who's complaining?
Dude,
who's complaining?
I think you guys would agree, all three of us shoot USPSA. We should be professionals at counting the rounds.
Yeah.
And I still can't do it. So
yeah, I've been known to reload, an extra time just for fun, occasionally. Yeah. And you're like, why did I just do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. That's when you know ahead of time how many rounds you're going to be shooting. Yeah. Good times.
I'm glad I brought that fourth mag.
Yeah, you're not wrong. High cap life. All right. Good stuff, guys. Hopefully, all that comes together for folks that are listening in kind of a cohesive unit there. I think we covered some good info, and it'll be helpful for folks. I hope. If you guys have follow-up questions, needing more info, please feel free to reach out to us. Drop us all messages, DMs, leave a comment down below. I try to keep an eye out for all of those and answer any of them that are actually legit questions and not just trolls. But all of our socials will be down in the description below on Spotify and on YouTube in the description to reach out to us directly as well. If you haven't already, guys, look these guys up. If you don't know Brennan and Nick already, make sure you train with those guys and follow them on all the places. We appreciate it. And let us know if you got any questions for next week as well. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.